The gathering storm. The crystalline dome of the Galactic Assembly stretched across 12 kilometers of Void Station Alpha Prime, its transparent walls revealing the swirling cosmos beyond. Inside, representatives from 300 civilizations gathered in tiered seating that rose like an amphitheater toward the stars. The emergency session had been called with unprecedented urgency, disrupting trade negotiations, peace treaties, and scientific conferences across 17 sectors. Ambassador Crix of the Solarian Confederation stood at the central platform, his scaled form gleaming under the Assembly's bioluminescent lighting. The Solarians were newcomers to the galactic stage, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 2 centuries ago, but their military prowess had earned them rapid recognition. Today, Crix's 4 eyes gleamed with what his species considered triumph. Esteemed colleagues of the Galactic Assembly, Crix began, his translator converting his harmonic tones into the common tongue. I bring news of a great achievement for the Confederation and indeed for all civilized space. We have successfully incorporated a new system into our protective sphere. The Assembly stirred with mild interest. System acquisitions were routine, particularly when dealing with pre-FTL civilizations. The Galactic Accord permitted advanced species to guide primitive worlds toward enlightenment, provided certain protocols were followed. The system lies in the uncharted regions of the Orion Spur, Crix continued, activating a holographic display. A blue-green world materialized above the platform, rotating slowly. The natives called it Earth, though we have designated it System 471b. They were barely industrial, still using chemical rockets and nuclear fission. The integration was completed in less than 10 rotations. Elder Thren of the Void Dancers, an ancient race that communicated through gravitational waves, suddenly contracted into a defensive sphere. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Other elder races began exchanging rapid communications through private channels, their agitation palpable. Crix, oblivious to the mounting tension, continued his presentation. The natives, who called themselves humans, offered minimal resistance. Our preliminary scans indicate the planet is rich in resources, particularly water and rare earth elements. We eliminated approximately 32,000 natives who resisted our civilizing efforts. The Archive Keeper materialized without warning. Unlike the other representatives who occupied physical space, the Archive Keeper was a quantum consciousness, a living repository of galactic history spanning millions of years. Its appearance at assembly sessions was rare, occurring perhaps once in a millennium. Its manifestation now sent ripples of concern through the gathered species. Ambassador Crix, the Archive Keeper's voice resonated not through sound but directly in the consciousness of every being present. Did you say Earth? Did you say humans? Crix's scales shifted to a confused purple. Yes, Archive Keeper. Is there significance to this primitive world that our surveys missed? The Archive Keeper expanded, its form becoming a swirling vortex of data and memory. Ancient files began materializing in the air, each marked with the highest level of warning classifications. Symbols that hadn't been seen in living memory flashed red. Extreme hazard, quarantine enforced, do not approach. You have invaded Terra, the Archive Keeper intoned, each word heavy with the weight of catastrophic implications. You have attacked humanity. Representative Zeal of the Harmonics, whose species had achieved transcendence eons ago, began emitting frequencies of pure dread. Several younger species representatives looked confused, but the elder races were already beginning to evacuate their junior delegates. I don't understand, Crix protested, his confidence wavering. Our intelligence indicated a primitive species barely capable of leaving their planet. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. How could they possibly— Show me the records, the Archive Keeper commanded. Show me everything from first contact 73 cycles ago. The chamber dimmed as the Archive Keeper projected memories directly into the Assembly's collective consciousness. They witnessed the first exploration vessel approaching Earth, its crew of talented xenobiologists and diplomats eager to make contact with the energetic primates they'd detected. They felt the crew's initial delight at humanity's enthusiasm, their offers of friendship, their eager curiosity about the universe. Then came the horror, the human offerings of hospitality, coffee that dissolved 3 diplomats' nervous systems, chocolate that sent 2 others into toxic shock. The recreational activities, A game called football that killed a warrior caste Threxian in minutes. Something called roller coasters that literally liquefied a gravitationally sensitive Weavin. The human children playing war games with tactical sophistication that rivaled military academies, using toy weapons that could have been classified as military hardware on most worlds. But it was the final recording that silenced even the skeptics. A human child no more than 10 cycles old had befriended the expedition's security chief. When local predators, what humans casually called stray dogs, threatened the alien visitors, the child had killed 3 of them with improvised weapons, then apologized for the mess while covered in blood. Completely untraumatized by the violence, the expedition's surviving members had filed their report with a single, unified recommendation: quarantine Earth immediately. Not because humans were hostile, quite the opposite. They were friendly, curious, and eager to learn, but they were also evolutionary nightmares, shaped by a world that seemed designed to create the perfect survivors. Their biology was toxic, their psychology incomprehensible, their children more dangerous than most species warriors. But surely, Crick stammered, his scales now a sickly yellow. Surely a primitive species cannot threaten the Confederation. We have energy shields, plasma cannons, orbital bombardment platforms. The archive keeper pulsed with something resembling grim amusement. Ambassador Crix, are you familiar with the concept of atomic weapons? Of course. It's a theoretical first step toward humans developed atomic weapons while still using propeller-driven aircraft. They deployed them in warfare against their own species. Twice. The assembly gasped collectively. Using atomic weapons against one's own species was considered a sign of irredeemable psychosis in every known civilization. They survived nuclear war, the archive keeper continued. They survived ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, pandemic diseases that would have exterminated any other known species. They evolved on a world with 30% higher gravity than galactic standard, with an oxygen atmosphere that's technically corrosive, surrounded by bacteria and viruses that constantly try to kill them. Every human alive is descended from billions of years of ancestors who survived what their world threw at them. Elder Thren uncoiled slightly, transmitting gravitational pulses of deep concern. Archive Keeper, if what you say is true, then the Confederation has just kicked the proverbial hornet's nest, the Archive Keeper finished. Yes. And unlike hornets, humans have nuclear weapons, cyber warfare capabilities, and most terrifyingly of all, they have imagination. Crix was frantically checking his communication channels. Our occupation force hasn't reported any significant resistance. The planetary capital is secure, the orbital platforms are. Every communication screen in the assembly went dark simultaneously. Then slowly they flickered back to life. But instead of showing Confederation channels, they displayed a single image. Earth as seen from space with text in perfect galactic standard beneath it. Hello, neighbors. We need to talk. Humanity. The message was replaced by a video feed. A human appeared on screen, middle-aged by their standards, wearing what looked like a simple business suit rather than military armor. He smiled, and every predator-evolved species in the assembly instinctively recoiled from those exposed teeth. Greetings, Galactic Assembly. My name is Marcus Cole, and I represent the United Earth Response Committee. We've been aware of your existence for quite some time. We were content to develop quietly, planning to introduce ourselves when we felt ready. Unfortunately, recent events have accelerated our timeline. The human's expression remained pleasant, but something in those forward-facing predator eyes made even the warrior species uncomfortable. We're going to need our people back, Marcus continued conversationally. All 32,417 of them. Yes, we know the exact number. We know their names. We remember them all, Crix found his voice. That's impossible. They're dead. Our weapons stunned them, Marcus interrupted. Your weapons stunned them. What you detected as death was hibernation response. It's a quirk of human biology when exposed to certain energy frequencies. They'll have splitting headaches when they wake up, but they're very much alive. We suggest you provide them with aspirin and water. They get cranky when they have headaches. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. The Confederation's weapons, designed to kill any known biological entity, had merely inconvenienced humans. Now then, Marcus continued, straightening his tie, Let's discuss the withdrawal of Confederation forces from our system. You have 72 hours. That's 3 Earth days for those keeping track. The reckoning Crix's scales shifted through a spectrum of colors that indicated extreme distress in his species. This is absurd. The Confederation does not yield to primitives. Our fleet is currently experiencing technical difficulties, Marcus Cole interrupted, his image on the screen maintaining that unsettling, pleasant demeanor. Behind him, new windows opened showing Confederation vessels in orbit around Earth. Their lights were flickering, their weapon systems cycling helplessly through diagnostic modes. You see, Marcus explained, pulling up a holographic display of his own. While you were planning your invasion, we were learning. Your probe visits over the last 70 years gave us plenty of opportunity to study your technology. Did you know your encryption protocols are based on quantum entanglement patterns? Fascinating stuff. Took our kids about 6 months to crack once we gave them the challenge. The word kids sent another wave of horror through the assembly. If human children could break military-grade encryption, Admiral Vez of the Confederation fleet appeared on a separate screen, his expression one of barely controlled panic. Ambassador Crix, we have a situation. The humans, they're not using conventional warfare. They're doing something to our systems. Every time we target a weapon, it starts playing something they call music. The crew is beginning to experience psychological distress. Some are even enjoying it. Marcus chuckled, a sound that managed to be both warm and terrifying. That would be Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. We thought you might appreciate some culture while you pack up. Though if you'd prefer, we have something called death metal that your psychological warfare experts might find interesting. The archive keeper pulsed with urgent energy. Mr. Cole, surely we can reach a peaceful resolution. The Confederation acted without the Assembly's knowledge or approval. They violated quarantine protocols. Oh, we're aware, Marcus replied, his smile never wavering. We've been monitoring your communications for decades. We know about the quarantine. We were honestly a bit hurt by it. We were planning to throw such a nice first contact party. We had cake planned and everything. The casual mention of monitoring secured galactic communication sent another wave of disbelief through the assembly. The quantum encryption used was considered unbreakable. But here's the thing, Marcus continued, his tone shifting to something more serious. We don't want war. We've had enough war among ourselves to know its cost. But we also won't tolerate aggression against our people. So here's what's going to happen. The screen shifted to show Earth from various angles. What the assembly saw defied their understanding. Cities that had appeared primitive were suddenly revealed to have hidden infrastructure. Wheat fields parted to reveal launch platforms. Mountains opened to show massive hangar bays. The entire planet was a camouflaged fortress. First, the Confederation will withdraw immediately. Second, they will pay reparations for the distress caused to our citizens. Nothing excessive. We're thinking maybe some of that nice Solarian crystal technology we've been admiring. Third, and this is non-negotiable, humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Assembly, with all associated rights and protections. Elder Thren's gravitational communication rippled through space. Membership requires sponsorship by 3 elder races and a probationary period of, "We'll sponsor them," 3 voices said simultaneously. The Void Dancers, the Harmonics, and the ancient Celestial Wanderers had all spoken at once. The younger races gasped. These 3 civilizations hadn't agreed on anything in recorded history. "We remember," the Celestial Wanderer representative explained. "We remember what happens to species that underestimate humanity. Better to have them as friends than enemies." Crix's pride finally overwhelmed his fear. "This is ridiculous. They're bluffing. Admiral Vez, target their major population centers. Show them the power of..." Every screen in the assembly went dark. Then slowly pinpricks of light appeared. Not on the screens, in space itself, visible through the crystalline dome. Hundreds, then thousands of objects were rising from Earth's surface. "Those aren't weapons," Marcus said quietly. "They're ships. Cargo vessels, actually. We've been building them in secret for 30 years, disguising them as shopping centers, warehouses, sports stadiums. Did you know that a standard human shopping mall has almost the exact same power requirements as a fusion reactor? Funny coincidence that. The cargo vessels arranged themselves in formation around the Confederation fleet. They weren't armed in any conventional sense, but each one was broadcasting something. Music, literature, art, mathematics, philosophy. The entire sum of human culture flooding the Confederation's communication systems. We call it aggressive friendship, Marcus explained. Your crews are learning about us whether they want to or not. Right now they're discovering human cuisine, human music, human humor. Did you know that exposure to human humor can cause spontaneous paradigm shifts in rigid thinking patterns? Your crews are learning to laugh, Ambassador Crix. Try fighting a war when your soldiers keep giggling at something called memes. Reports were flooding in from the Confederation fleet. Crews were refusing orders not out of mutiny but out of distraction. They were too busy exploring the flood of human information, fascinated despite themselves. Some were trying human recipes in their food synthesizers. Others were attempting something called dance moves. But the truly beautiful part, Marcus continued, is what your crews are sharing with each other. Personal messages, cultural exchanges, jokes. Your people and our people are becoming friends, Ambassador. It's hard to wage war on your friends. The archive keeper pulsed with something that might have been amusement. You're using mimetic warfare. You're conquering them with culture. Conquering is such an ugly word, Marcus replied. We prefer aggressively befriending, and it's working. Admiral Vez, would you like to share what your crew is currently voting on? The Admiral appeared on screen looking bewildered. They're voting on whether to stay for something called movie night. The humans are offering to stream something called Star Wars, and the crew seems unusually excited about it. Original trilogy only, Marcus clarified. We're not monsters. The assembly sat in stunned silence. In less than 3 days, humanity had neutralized an invasion fleet not through violence but through weaponized friendship. They had turned the Confederation's own soldiers into eager participants in cultural exchange. Crix slumped in defeat. What are your terms? Oh, we already told you our terms, Marcus said cheerfully. Withdrawal, reparations, and membership. But we're adding one more thing. Cultural exchange programs. We want to learn about all of you. And we want you to learn about us, properly this time. With safety protocols so nobody gets accidentally poisoned by our food or traumatized by our entertainment. Entertainment? Someone asked. Trust me, you'll want safety protocols. We have something called horror movies that your psychological evaluation teams will find fascinating and terrifying in equal measure. The archive keeper expanded, its form encompassing the entire assembly. I motion to accept humanity's terms and grant them immediate emergency membership in the Galactic Assembly. The vote was unanimous, even Crix raising a reluctant tentacle in agreement. Marcus's image smiled wider. Excellent. We'll start preparing for the welcome celebration. Fair warning, though. Humans celebrate with something called fireworks. They're controlled explosions in the sky for aesthetic purposes. Yes, we detonate explosives for fun. You'll get used to it. As the assembly dispersed, many representatives still in shock, the archive keeper remained, studying the data streams from Earth. Humanity had revealed only a fraction of their capabilities, it realized. They had neutralized an invasion without firing a single weapon, had turned enemies into friends, had demonstrated technology decades ahead of what anyone had suspected. But more importantly, they had shown restraint. They could have destroyed the Confederation fleet, could have demanded crushing terms, could have used this as an excuse for conquest. Instead, they had chosen friendship, albeit aggressive friendship. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors or servants, but as something far more transformative. Neighbors who refused to be ignored, friends who wouldn't take no for an answer, and teachers who would share their chaotic, beautiful, terrifying culture whether the galaxy was ready or not. In the following weeks, as human cultural ambassadors spread throughout the galaxy, bringing with them coffee, chocolate, sports, music, and an infectious enthusiasm for absolutely everything, the elder races watched with a mixture of amusement and trepidation. Humanity had indeed been contained for too long. Now unleashed upon an unsuspecting galaxy, they would transform it not through conquest but through the most powerful force they possessed, their irrepressible humanity. The age of isolation was over. The age of aggressive friendship had begun. And somewhere on Earth, Marcus Cole was already planning the next surprise, introducing the galaxy to something called social media. The galaxy would never recover, and perhaps that was exactly what it needed. End of story.